How much of our photo gear is actually going to be affected by the trade war? It can't possibly all be made in China. Can it? Made in China. Assembled in China. Manufactured in China. This doesn't say anywhere, but I'm pretty sure it's China. Designed in Sweden, manufactured in Poland, made in Thailand. Nikon, made in Thailand. Made in Vietnam, designed and manufactured in the USA. A few days ago, Lee released this video on YouTube called Who Pays Tariffs? I Do, and it's caused a lot of discussion both in the YouTube comments and here in the Fstoppers office. With all this going on, I thought today it would be good to look at how this tariff war might affect us photographers and videographers and what you might expect in the future. Last week, our president, U.S. President Donald Trump, declared April 2nd as Liberation Day.
My fellow Americans, this is Liberation Day.
Which marked a major U.S. policy pivot aimed at resetting the entire U.S. trade relation with essentially the entire world. The focus of this includes sweeping tariff increases on every import from countries he claims is taking advantage of the American market. But what does this mean for you, the photographer? This policy shift might change everything, from your gear budget to how you run your business. Now, if you did happen to miss it, Trump had this lengthy speech where he brought out this huge chart and he showed all of the brand new tariffs that he was going to enact on all foreign goods unless other nations drop their own tariffs and trade barriers. Some of these tariffs go as high as 60%. What is the point of all this? Well, the idea is to force other countries to start playing by what Trump calls fair trade rules.
For decades, our country has been looted, pillaged, raped, and plundered by nations near and far, both friend and foe alike.
Now, we've been hearing about these tariff threats throughout the entire election cycle, but today, these aren't just abstract numbers or political talking points. They are now real, published numbers that are causing chaos on Wall Street and your retirement funds. And soon, the MSRP prices on your favorite camera and electronics are going to go, potentially, through the roof. So first, let's talk about logistics. Almost all major camera and lighting gear brands are based overseas. The big camera makers, Canon, Nikon, Sony, Fujifilm, they're all based out of Japan. Godox, based in China. DJI, based in China. Profoto, based in Sweden. Westcott, well, they're one of the few companies that are actually based in the United States, out of Ohio, but their manufacturing is still based mostly out of China. Vosintech, the startup company that makes the Micro Fogger 5, they're actually based here in the United States. They're the only company out of all of the gear that I quickly found that is making products in the United States, but they are incredibly small and they make a very niche product with a little handheld smoke machine. Apple, also an American company, but produces most of their products in Southeast Asia. These new Liberation Day policies mean all of these products could face higher tariffs unless Trump negotiates individual deals with each country, which could take weeks, months, or even years. So let's cut to the chase. What happens if these tariffs actually kick in? Well, prices are gonna go up, and they're gonna go up extremely fast. Retailers who import gear, like B&H Photo or Best Buy, they're gonna face much higher costs, and those costs are gonna get passed on to you. You might see cameras that used to cost $2,000 now be $600 more. Most all of our lenses are going to increase by hundreds of dollars. Flash kits, they're going to jump up in price anywhere from 20 to 50%. Even memory cards and hard drives, well, they're going to see significant price increases as well. There is some good news though. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer on everything. If you're a film shooter, guess what? Kodak still makes film in the good old USA. However, it's not all butterflies and rainbows. The chemistry needed to develop any of these films, unfortunately, is still made overseas, so you can expect film developing costs to also go through the roof. So if you're running a photo business, this is all going to hit your bottom line. And if you're just a hobbyist, it might just delay you from upgrading your camera, but it also might force you to start looking elsewhere like the used market. So let's look at some of the biggest names that you and I probably use all the time, and see how they're going to be affected. First is Nikon and Canon, based out of Japan. These two brands, they represent decades of photographic excellence, but neither manufacturer is heavily invested in the United States. The new proposed tariffs on Japan are at a whopping 24%, so we can expect higher prices on camera bodies, lenses, and official accessories like flashes, batteries, and even vertical grips. Now let's talk about Sony. Sony probably has the leading edge when it comes to mirrorless camera technology right now, but most of their gear is designed in Japan, but only just recently they've moved over to Thailand. So that means the A7 IV, the A9 III, and their entire lens line are likely to go up in price by 36% if made in Thailand, or a whopping 54 to 60% if it's made in China. Fujifilm, well, they're not much different. For those of you who enjoy Fujifilm's X series cameras and love their nostalgic designs, those cameras just got a lot more expensive too. Like Nikon and Canon, a large percentage of Fujifilm's gear is made in Japan, and if it's made in Japan, it's going to be hit with a 20 to 30% tariff as well. For the more expensive cameras like the Fujifilm GFX medium format camera that already costs $5,000, I predict most photographers are probably going to get cold feet when the price jumps up to $6,300 for the exact same camera. Let's talk about Godox, and this is where things get really rough. Now, if you're familiar with Godox, they've kind of built their name by offering high-end performance at really budget-based prices. But with China facing the steepest tariff hikes, Godox products could almost double in price, which would completely destroy their competitive advantage. As mentioned with Sony and some of the other brands, China already has a 20% tariff from Trump's first term, and he just announced an additional 34% tariff. Now, I just earlier today was talking to some friends here in Puerto Rico that build a lot of different products in China, and depending on where the item is sourced from and what type of material it's made out of, they're claiming that the tariff could actually be an additional 10 or 15% more than what we're even hearing about right now. So instead of being around 54 to 60%, they're saying it could actually go as high as 65 or 70%. Now, the unfortunate news in this situation is that the 8200 and V1 speedlights, they're often seen as the most affordable entry price flashes for photographers who are just getting started in this industry. It's crazy to think that a flash as cheap as Godox might become unaffordable with these current tariffs, but there's really no cheaper options than the flashes that are made out of China. So that's Godox, the cheaper market in China. Well, what about the most expensive flashes, Profoto? Profoto is based out of Sweden, and it already sits at the highest end of the market. Their premium lights could get even more expensive if Sweden doesn't strike a deal with the US and they're hit with these trade wars as well. Right here I have a brand new Profoto B3, which at the time of this video, this light costs a whopping $4,000. Now, just like some of the other camera manufacturers have a home base and then a manufacturing base, Profoto is no different. They're based out of Sweden, but their packaging says that some of their products are assembled in Poland, like their expensive flashes, but a lot of the accessories for these flashes, well, those are made in China. Anything made in the EU, both of which Sweden and Poland are a part of, will have an additional 20% tariff. So if this flash is in fact made only in Poland, then we're going to be extremely lucky because this is only going to cost us $5,000 instead of the $6,000 it will cost if it's made in China. Which brings me to Westcott, and this is where things get really interesting because a lot of photographers rely on Westcott to get a great product at a really competitive price, and Westcott is the only company so far that is based in Ohio, here in the United States. Now, just like most of the other brands I've mentioned, I personally know the people that work at Westcott, and they're incredibly innovative and they're incredibly great designers. But just like you're seeing with everybody else on this list, most of the products that are designed by Westcott are actually built in China or other Southeast Asian countries. Unfortunately, all of Trump's tariffs are calculated based on the country of manufacturing, so this means that anything that Westcott produces overseas will see similar price hikes as it enters into the US market. Maybe one could argue that Westcott, over all these other brands, has the greatest chance of bringing manufacturing back to the United States since their headquarters is here, but it seems incredibly risky to me to spend millions or billions of dollars developing new factories in the United States when these tariffs could be gone in a few years or even a few weeks. I don't know why anyone would take on that kind of risk. Now we got DJI, based out of China. This is a company that has risen to the absolute top of the market when it comes to remote-controlled drones, action cameras, and stabilized gimbals. I know that DJI is based out of Shenzhen, but when I look at their packaging, I don't know how this is legal, but I cannot find a country of origin printed anywhere on this. This could be made in Malaysia, which at the time of making this video, it's a little confusing if Malaysia is going to have a 47% tariff or perhaps a discounted 24% tariff, but whatever it means, it's definitely going to go up in price. But if their drones are in fact made in China, then you can expect them to all go up 54 to 60% here in the next few weeks. Now, there are a ton of different other companies that I'm not going to go through right now, but you get the basic idea of what's about to happen if these newly announced tariffs go into effect. Oh, and this video is being released right now while the United States is awaiting to hear all the retaliatory tariffs that other countries around the world are going to impose on our products going into their countries. So if the stock market is crashing right now while you're watching this video, then there is a very good chance that everything is going to get even worse than what I outlined in this video, because Trump will surely bump those known numbers that I just told you even higher if other countries start retaliating against the United States. This could just be the beginning of this tariff war. So what are we going to do about all this tariff insanity? Well, most photographers are pretty resourceful, so here's how I think we might adapt. First, buy everything that you need right now, like immediately, right now. The effects of these tariffs are unlikely to affect any of the inventory currently inside the US today, so you can get the best deals right now before these tariffs actually take effect on future inventory. There's going to be this small window, maybe 30 days or so, where we might actually see some really big sales as retailers feel the recessionary effects on all of this tariff talk. With the markets crashing, a lot of people have lost a lot of retirement and investing money. I know I sure have. And this loss of purchasing power might cause people, a lot of people, to actually pull back and not buy anything. This could cause retailers to start offering some deals to the public just to move inventory in preparation for a recession that might be right on the horizon. However, once all of this inventory that has not been slapped with a tariff has been sold, it's a guarantee. I guarantee you that all of the new cameras and new lenses that are imported and released this year, they are all going to be way more expensive than anything that you could buy right now. I actually just saw an email from Pro Photo stating that they are now offering $300 off their B10X flashes now until May 31st, and you can also get $600 off their dual B10X flash kit. So this sale is essentially 17% off, but by the time this sale ends and then you add an additional 25 to 50% tariff on top of this, I don't think you're ever going to be able to buy a flash unit like this for the same price, maybe ever. Now this is just one example, and I don't mean to promote Pro Photo alone. I'm going to try to find as many deals as I can and put them in the description below, because I think there are going to be some really good deals leading up to this new tariff being enacted. But once those products start shipping in and hitting customs, these are guaranteed to go up in price. Now let's talk about another option, the used market. With all of these new tariffs, I'd expect that the used market is going to blow up. It's going to boom. Things are going to get more expensive. Gear that's just a few years old will actually hold its value, or we might actually find it increasing in value, because a lot of this gear is in an economy pre-tariff, and it's going to be competing with much more expensive prices. You're going to find a lot of people gravitating towards that used gear. Another option that we have as photographers is one that probably most people don't think about, and that is just to rent the gear that you need to use. If buying becomes unaffordable, renting may become the norm, especially for big ticket items like tilt-shift lenses, medium format bodies, and high-end lighting kits. There's also a lot of really great rental companies out there online like Lens Pro To Go and Borrow Lenses that allow photographers to rent gear only when they need it. Now this might sound really strange to a lot of photographers, but very few high-end level photographers actually own their own gear. In the commercial world, everyone simply rents their cameras, their lighting, the studios that they need, and they bill all of that to their clients. It's all on a single itemized invoice. And if you'd like to learn more about how to break into the highest level of commercial photography and how you can start charging a rental fee on the gear that you might already own, check out the tutorial that we did with Monty Isom called Making Real Money, the Business of Commercial Photography. He breaks down how all of this works and talks about how he only rents the gear that he needs for specific shoots, and any time that he needs to use the gear that he personally owns, he's invoicing his clients so that he can get a rental rate for the gear that he's already paid for. And finally, let's talk about repairs instead of replacements. With all of this new gear getting incredibly expensive really quickly, I'd expect that there's going to be a huge boom in camera and lens repairs. Keeping older gear in shape, I believe, is going to become increasingly more important, especially as cameras improve only marginally and these tariffs start making everything even more and more expensive. I know for me, I am buying new iPhones less and less because the technology just doesn't seem worth it. And when it comes to cameras, instead of buying a new camera every year for my business, I'm actually getting away with cameras that are several years old now. I know camera gear can be pretty expensive to repair, but there might be a tipping point where if it costs just a small fraction to repair the gear that I already own compared to buying something that's the latest and greatest, I might actually prefer using the gear that I've had for several years after getting it repaired than spending even more money on a new camera system and having to change up my entire workflow. There's one last thing that I do want to mention because I was just reading about this with another business that I'm starting up where I'm going to have to start importing goods from China. Trump recently announced that anything that is physically mailed through the Postal Service into the United States that was previously exempt from tariffs will now be tariffed at the same rate as if it was brought in on a ship. If you didn't know, many items that are worth less than $800 and were mailed into the United States from China or other countries, they rarely faced a tariff bill when passing customs. If you've ever bought a random item off of eBay, Temu, or AliExpress and you had to wait 45 days to finally get it after purchasing it, chances are that item actually wasn't tariffed, and when it went through customs, they never sent you a bill for it. The price that you paid online was the final price that you paid even to get it into the country. Well, Trump just announced that they're getting rid of that entirely. So I suspect that if you buy any accessories on eBay or some of these other websites and you have them shipped directly to you without going through a retailer, chances are you're also going to get a tax bill in the mail either afterwards or to get it released from customs and receive it at your house to begin with. Even though this bill has been signed, apparently it goes into effect May 2nd. And here we are in April, so if you wind up getting that item through the mail after May 2nd, well, you're probably gonna be hit with a tariff as well. So that's my take and opinion on how these tariffs are going to affect us photographers in the near future. Will these tariffs eventually get called off entirely? Or will retaliatory tariffs cause Trump to raise them even more? Only time will tell. I hope you guys enjoy this video, even though it's a very difficult video to have to talk about in these crazy times. If you guys want to see more photography-based video content, subscribe to our channel below. Also head over to fstoppers.com/contest, where you can check out our monthly Critique the Community contest. In these critiques, you can upload your images into the given theme, win some really cool prizes, and at the end of the month, Lee and I critique our favorite 10 images from the entire submission base. And finally, if you want to become a better photographer or videographer, head over to fstoppers.com/store, where you can check out our full-length photography tutorials. These cover everything from architectural photography, product shots, headshots, weddings, landscapes, and some of them even talk about the business of photography, like the Monty Isom tutorial that I mentioned, Making Real Money. Many of these tutorials now have a free lesson on the sales page, so definitely go over to fstoppers.com/store if for no other reason to watch a free lesson. And hopefully by the time I next see you, all of these tariffs have been called off and the world has just gotten back to normal. Is that a possibility?